My teaser for today's devotional at the end of yesterday's promised to look at diversity within the Bible. But I'm going to put that off for a day. Instead, I want to return today to the law in the Old Testament and add one important dimension to the practice of wisdom in relation to our understanding of the law. Hello, I'm Stuart Baskin, pastor of First Presbyterian Church of Tyler, Texas. And this is your daily devotional for Friday, February 28th, 2025. In our culture of constant movement, we often don't allow ourselves the time to sit and consider carefully the decisions we make. We are a bottom line culture, meaning we don't have a lot of patience for lengthy discussions. We want to get to the bottom line of a matter and get there quickly, make a decision, and move on. I know that when I'm in meetings that stretch on seemingly into infinity, I get very antsy and impatient. Meetings like this we can describe as ponderous, by which we mean too slow and tedious. But the word ponderous is closely related to another word we would do well to adopt: ponder. Our friend Peter Enns, in his book, How the Bible Actually Works, argues that instead of giving us clear instructions, especially in the law, we get ambiguity, which in turn invites us, requires us actually, to practice wisdom. We have to think deeply about what the law in particular and the Bible in general calls us to do. If you haven't read his book, he includes some rather humorous examples of the kind of ambiguity we see even in the clearest commandments. In talking, for example, about the fourth commandment, to remember the Sabbath day and keep it holy, he raises question after question about what it means to keep the Sabbath holy. What does it mean not to do any work on the Sabbath? Is it a prohibition against working for a paycheck, or does it include household chores? What about people who have to work on the Sabbath so we don't have to, like restaurant workers and such? His point is that even a commandment as seemingly clear and straightforward as the fourth commandment requires wisdom to determine what it means for us. Just as an aside, if you ever visit Israel and stay in a high-rise hotel, you will find that come sundown Friday evening through sundown on Saturday, some, if not all of the elevators go on Sabbath mode. That means you don't push a button to call for an elevator or to ring the floor you want to go to. You simply wait for an elevator. They automatically go up and down, stopping at every floor, so that observant Jews aren't caught up working on the Sabbath. As odd as it sounds to us, one of the prohibited acts of the Sabbath is kindling a fire. And since pushing an electronic button involves the hidden act of creating a spark, pushing an elevator button counts as work. Now this sounds strange to us, but there is something really important going on here. Generation upon generation of rabbis have done the important work of faith. They have pondered the meaning of the law and what it means concretely in their own time. Elevators did not exist in ancient Israel, but modern inventions like this need to be taken account of in modern times. I'm reminded of one of the most important passages in all of Scripture, what is often referred to as the Shema, so named for the command to hear. You'll recognize it immediately as the first of the commandments Jesus calls the greatest and first commandment. But I'm interested more about what comes after the commandment itself. Here's what it says: "Hear, O Israel, the Lord is our God, the Lord alone. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your might. Keep these words that I am commanding you today in your heart. Recite them to your children, and talk about them when you are at home and when you are away, when you lie down and when you rise. Bind them as a sign on your hand, fix them as an emblem on your forehead, and write them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates." So in places where you find a lot of Orthodox Jews, you'll find men walking around with little boxes strapped either to their arms or sometimes to their foreheads. And many Jewish homes have a little decorative attachment on the frame of their front door. The little boxes worn by Orthodox Jewish men are called phylacteries, while the attachments on door frames are called mezuzahs. Both contain the same thing, a small vellum copy of these verses from Deuteronomy. They are daily reminders of the command to keep these words, recite them, and talk about them. In short, they are there to remind Jews to ponder not only this one law, but the entire law. Because discerning the will of God for our lives is never as simply as reading a set of rules and following them. Discerning and following the will of God requires wisdom, and wisdom involves actively thinking and meditating on God's will. Wisdom asks us to ponder these things. It may take a lifetime of reflection, but there's nothing ponderous about it. Tomorrow, diversity is not a dirty word, but for now, may God continue to bless you and keep you in all that you do this day and in all the days ahead.